because if you know where it is used, then the only thing which we have to learn is how it is used, right? Okay. So this is our focus for today, understanding what configuration management is. Okay, we'll take a very basic scenario. I'll not expect any technicality around it, and then we will introduce to you what is a kind of automation that is done, and then we'll go to the configuration management and understand what it does. Okay, is the agenda clear? Yeah. So first let me go to the paint. Fine. Now we all agree that developers write code for the applications whatever we are trying to deploy. Yes or no? Yeah. As a DevOps engineer, our major responsibility is automating the delivery pipeline. I think I have introduced to you yesterday itself saying that this is what it is. How many of you have not attended yesterday? అంటే ఇంతకు ముందు వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు కాదు, who have came today, just today. Yeah. Do one thing. I'll ask Satish to send a recording of it. Just have an overview of it. It is not a technical discussion. It is the same discussion where it is completely speaking about what will happen in DevOps or why we do DevOps. Okay. So developers write code. Do you all agree to that? Irrespective of whatever language it is. I am not specific to any programming language. It could be any language, right? And now the end result is an application. Yeah. So let us assume that we are developing something like Swiggy, which you use too much often these days. So that is what our company is developing, right? So developers write code, and now to the customer, what is that you are giving? Are you giving code? No, right? You are not giving code. Basically, he might install an app, okay, and whenever he orders on the app, it has to work. That is the basic workflow, right? So code is available, it is written by the developers, and then what should happen? This is a Swiggy's code, and the Swiggy which you and me know as basically whatever we are using for ordering food, right? Take any application for that matter. As a customer, am I worried about code? As a customer, I'm worried about a website or whatever it is where I can access the application. So how can I take my code to that point? That is a whole delivery pipeline. And as a DevOps engineer, you are and my responsibility is automating that. Even today it is done, but it is done in many companies manually. Okay, there will be one person who will be the most fortunate person. అంటే అన్ని శుభకార్యాలు ఇలాంటి చేసేటప్పుడు మంచి ఓపెనింగ్స్ కి కొంతమంది అదృష్టం ఉన్న వాళ్ళని పిలుస్తాం కదా, right? We will call people who are most fortunate, and basically these guys do that stuff. Similarly, in many organizations, production deployment is done by one specific person, right? And he is the only person who does it just because he knows how to do it. We want to get away from that. So from this code to the application like Swiggy, what is that is happening, right? So this code will be converted into some sort of package. So for example, right, you have installed Chrome. All of us have installed Chrome on our laptops. Do you agree to that? Yes. So Chrome is completely written in C++. Have you ever seen C++ code in Chrome? What you and me know is the download which we download, the exe which we download from the internet, we double click it and we have Chrome on our system. So that is a package of Chrome. So for every application there will be some sort of this package, right? So from code we'll have a package, and now this package I have to I'll not call install, but I'll call it as deploy onto the machine where I want it to be, right? The only difference is I'm not calling it as installable, because installable doesn't make sense everywhere. Is it clear? Okay. Now from code we have package. So during that transformation we build the code, we execute the test cases, we do all sorts of that stuff, and then we have a package, and then we have to deploy it. And whenever you are deploying a package, it will have certain requirements. Can I take Google Chrome and install it on Windows 98? Is it possible? It will not work. It will say, I don't know what operating system you are running on, right? Many versions of Chrome don't work on Windows XP also, because that is the latest one. So every application that is being run will have some infrastructural needs. Yes or no? So to do this deployment, what is that we need? One is suitable environment. When I say suitable environment, I am restricting myself to very basic OS and hardware requirements. Simple, right? Once you have that, then you would have some more needs. Okay, that I am calling it as. Do you all agree to this? For any software, you'll have this, right? Yeah. Okay. Suitable environment, operating system and hardware, and then we'll have prerequisites, right? These are done manually. We will take an operating system where we have all the operating system needs installed, and then we'll install the prerequisites on our own. Okay, this is good, but the problem is we have to do this many times on many different servers, because whenever any product has to be released to the market, there will be a whole lot of testing that is being done. So for example, we'll have functional testing team, we'll have system testing team, we'll have performance testing, load testing, different kinds of testing environments. And then we'll have demo environments where we'll showcase this environment to our customer, saying that this is what our product does, do you want to buy it? So you have a hell lot of environment. So how many times will you do this manually? Is it a difficult job doing the same thing manually again and again? Yes. And now the other problem is, if it is only one person doing this activity again and again, it is still fine. But will it be one person? Can you assure that two people does the same job exactly in the same way? When you given the work to two different people, I have given work to both of them, and I've given a document, and they have to execute the instructions in that document. Can I guarantee that all the instructions are exactly done in the same order by the two different people? That is one more problem if you are doing manually. So somehow we will not have consistency. Somehow we will not have what? Consistency. So how do I bring this? Consistency ledu, and they have to follow some order, follow some instructions, right? So how can I bring consistency? Any assumptions on this? Any stuff on this? Rather than asking developers or asking the people to execute them manually, if I write some script, and if they double click on that script, it will happen. Is it making sense? Two people, once they have an operating system, they will double click on the script and it would do all the jobs. Okay, the second step, installing prerequisites. Then two people, if you give this work to two different people, then there is no chance of two people doing it differently, because they are just double clicking the script. Simple. By double click I mean execute for the Linux world, right? So is it making sense? So here we can go with something called as scripting, and to be more specific, I'm interested in something called as shell or PowerShell or batch. Shell is for Linux, PowerShell is for Windows, and batch was the older way of doing it in Windows. Good. Problem solved, right? Yeah. Now let me tell you what is the problem with scripting. The problem with scripting is, right, if I execute the same script again by mistake, if I execute the same script again by mistake, will my application behave the same? It might or it might not. There is no guarantee. ఒకసారి ఏ స్క్రిప్ట్ అయితే తను డబుల్ క్లిక్ చేశాడో పొరపాటున 2 సార్లు చేశాడు. Are you getting the whole point? Rather than executing it once, he has executed it twice. So the script might work or might not work. There is no guarantee around it. Yes or no? Yeah. So for the script to be executed, the problematic area in this is, okay, you need to execute the script in certain conditions itself. Okay, take the new Windows 7 laptop and then execute the script. If the installation is already done, never touch the script. There might be assumption like that. So they will have lot of conditions or assumptions, and most of the people go wrong here. They don't understand that assumptions and they try to do it again, and it will ruin all of the application software that is running on your machine. So how do I stop this? How do I stop this? One way to stop it is write a wonderful script. Write a wonderful script. But writing a wonderful script cannot be guaranteed because it depends on the person's caliber. So for example, if I have asked you to write a script for installing something, and even if I write it, the problem is your script and my script, even though they are doing the same job, might not look the same, because in scripting world you have many ways of doing the things. Okay, so these problem leads to certain things like we will lose on readability. What is readability? Readability is understanding what someone has written. You will not understand that. Okay, and the most important thing is not even readability. This will be maintainability, because tomorrow your application's prerequisites might change. Then you have to rework on that script, and if you don't know what you are doing, if you don't understand the code, how will you modify it? How will you maintain it? These are all the problems. Okay, rather than doing it manually, shell scripting is wonderful, there is no doubt about it, right? But shell script has following problems. It will have assumptions, right? No two people will write the same script in the same stuff for achieving the same activity. Okay, for example, I have to create a file. Yeah, you might basically, I can use touch command. Linux touch command will create a file, or you might use something like echo test.txt. Even this will create a file. It will create a file with empty contents in it, right? So both are correct. That's the problem. Okay, so you should have decent amount of skills to understand the different ways how people write the code. That's where if you go to the Linux interviews, they will ask you many different ways of doing the things. That's the whole problem around it. The same problem with any scripting tool, because for doing the things you will have more than one ways, right? Or some of the people might have habit of doing something like vi test.txt and then just close the file. Even this will create a file. So for doing one activity, you'll have more than one ways. So how will I make it maintainable? That's the whole point, right? So we will have assumptions in the script. We will have maintainability comes on to a hit, right? So industry was looking for a solution. Industry was looking for a solution which should not have these problems. Okay, you write something. Okay, whether you execute it one time or thousands of times, the result should always be the same. That's the first condition. And whether you write the script or if I write the script, at least in more than 50% of the cases it would look the same. These are the two important conditions. So what is the first condition? Basically, when you execute the script even once or thousands of times, the result should always be the same. And the second point is basically it should be maintainable, which means that you should be able to understand whatever you are writing. Even though you don't write it, even if you want to write it, it should look almost the same. That's the whole point. Is it looking good? Sensible points, kada? These are all sensible points, and this is something which you want it to be maintained, right? And one more thing which they have done is, okay, they have focused on what rather than how. In the scripts, you would mostly tell to the world or tell to this engine what rather than how, right? In the shell script, when I was writing it, I had to create a file. What is that I was trying to tell? How to create a file, right? But industry didn't wanted this. They wanted some tool which will understand what, not how to do the things. It was interested in what has to be done. అంటే ఏం చేయాలి అన్నది చెప్తే సరిపోతుంది, ఎలా చేయాలి చెప్పాల్సిన పని లేదు. ఓకే, these were the three important focuses. One is you execute the script multiple times, same result. Readability, whether you write the script and I write the script, for achieving a similar task, at least 50% of the script should look the same. And the third one is, in majority of the cases, you should be telling what has to be done rather than how. What has to be done rather than how. So these are the three principles of any configuration management. I'm not speaking about Ansible, I'm speaking about any configuration management. So whether you look into PowerShell DSC, whether you look into Ansible, whether you look into Chef, whether you look into Puppet, you will have the same principles. These are the principles of configuration management. The first principle, where I said, whenever you execute the script once or thousands of times, you will get the same result. This property is called as idempotency. This property is called as idempotency. So basically, we use configuration management to achieve idempotency. What is idempotency? The result of your execution should be same, okay, irrespective of how many times you execute it. So for example, I have written a script for installing a web server. What is that script I have written? Let us not speak about web server. For installing Java, okay, I have written some script for installing Java. I have executed it for the first time after I have got the new operating system. Will the new operating system have Java by default? No. So this script will execute it. Second time also you have tried to execute it. Okay. Now Java is already installed on your system. So this script will check, okay, Java is already installed on my system, so there is no job that I need to do, so it will keep quiet. So whenever you are doing it again and again, right, it will do the same job. The end result will always be the same. So that's why we want this important characteristic. And then readable. Okay, readable and maintainability. Okay. Wonderful. Looking good? Yes. Fine. So the whole aspect around this is, okay, you write your scripts in this, and this whole way of writing the stuff is called as IAC, infrastructure as code. Make sense? So what is infrastructure? Your prerequisites. What is infrastructure? Infrastructure అంటే ఏమీ కాదు, బిల్డింగ్లు కాదు, right? మనకి బిల్డింగ్ కావాలి, that is our infrastructure for us to live. Similarly, for your application to work, it will have some needs, like I need Java 8, so I need MySQL to be installed. Okay, I need particular user to be present on the Linux machine, and this user should have admin privileges. You will have all of these needs, right? So those are your infrastructural needs. So for your application to be deployed, you will have some infrastructural needs, and that will be performed by configuration management. Simple, right? So why are we doing this? We do this because we will have a package. Before we start the configuration management, what is that we would have? We would have a package, and we would have a system with basic needs like operating system installed, right? You have package and you have a system with operating system, and then you are running configuration management, and you would get basically your application working in that case. Yeah. So for example, if I want to install Chrome, you would say that I have a Windows 7 machine, right? I would have a Windows 7 machine, right? And now you run your script, because for Chrome you need just an operating system. Then you go ahead, so it will just install Chrome. Similarly, if I have to install any Java based application, first it will install Java, okay, and then it will install your application. So it will deploy your application as well as your application needs, prerequisites. So that is what IAC is all about, right? IAC with respect to configuration management. Now in this I have said that suitable environment, sorry for that, suitable environment. The first one is you need an operating system to start. Okay, even operating systems can be created from the scripts. Even operating systems can be created from the scripts, but that is out of scope of this discussion, because we are speaking about configuration management. In virtual worlds, if you want to do this, then we will be learning a topic called as infra provisioning. One is called as infra provisioning, two is called as configuration management. And for infra provisioning, we'll be learning a tool called as Terraforms and Packer, which will basically create your operating system needs or your system needs in the cloud environments. That's the whole point. Fine, right? So before getting further, what I would do is, let me tell you a basic workflow of how to work in any configuration management tool, and then I'll go to the models of configuration management. So let us assume that this is the activity that is given to you. Your company is working on, oh, this will not be good. So okay, your companies are working on an application, right, which is based on a technology which is Node.js. We are not interested in technology, I know that, right? But let us assume, because applications are on technologies, Node.js application. And now, apart from that, okay, you would have to deploy this application which requires Node.js. And apart from that, you need to install something like MongoDB, some database, right? So the model which you have chosen is, your architect has told you that, okay, let me just take a screen cap of this. 1 minute. I don't want to miss this one out. Yes. Okay. So the basic requirement is, you would have two servers in your application. Two servers, right? So this is your database server. This is your database server. And this is a server where your application is running. I'll call it as app server, right? So in this app server, you will be deploying the application, and then here you have to install the database. Now I'm writing just something like MongoDB. It could be any database. Okay. Similarly, app server, I'm using Node.js now. Tomorrow, if I'm using Java, I might be installing Tomcat there. If I'm installing .NET, that might be my IIS server. So depending on the language, you might have different needs. So this is the work which you have to do, right? Now, how do you do that? So to do this, what is that it is required? Your job is to, you have a machine already, operating system already undi. On that operating system, here you have to install Node.js, and here you have to install MongoDB, right? So first thing is, for your configuration management to be successful, you should know the manual steps. You should know the manual steps. And how do I know the manual steps? We will not remember it. We have Google, right? So I'll go to the Google, and let us assume that this operating system is Ubuntu 16. This is Red Hat 7, whatever it is. It could be anything. Okay. First thing what you will do is, you will create the test environments, and you will install this once manually and see if you are able to install it or not. Then only you will go for automation. First is, to automate, you should know how to do it manually. Okay. So Node.js installation on Ubuntu 16 server. That's what I'm speaking about, right? So that is the first thing which I'll do. I'll go over here and I'd say installing Node.js on Ubuntu. You would find a lot of documents for that. Take this document, just Google it, nothing apart from that. And after this, you would continue whatever has been given in this document. You have to run it manually once for sure. And this principle holds good for any work which you are doing down the line in the future. Office lo work ichina meer chese first pani ide. Before writing Ansible, before writing shell script, or before doing any task, first execute it manually once. Because let us assume you have written a script and script was failing. You have written a script for installing and it is failing. What will be your first suspicion on? My script is wrong, right? Avuna? Mana script rasam, script pani cheyatla. I have written the script and script is not working. My first suspicion is always on my script, saying that script is not working. But the problem could be, you might have missed one Linux command. You might have missed one Linux command in your automation. Okay, so that is because you have not executed it manually once. So always during the configuration management, whether we are doing in Ansible, whether we are doing it in Chef, whether we are doing it in PowerShell DSC, you should know manually how to do it. Otherwise, you will not be able to write this. Okay, so దానికి ఏం పెద్ద బ్రహ్మ విద్యం అవసరం లే. What is it I have done? I've just googled it. Now similarly, if I want to install MongoDB, what would my query look like? Install MongoDB on Red Hat, whatever it is. Am I getting documentation for everything? Okay, so this you can Google it. Once you know, run through the steps, then you will understand what you are doing, right? Then we will tell to Ansible or Chef or PowerShell DSC how to do this, right? How to achieve this in Ansible or Chef or Puppet, right? What is the first thing then? After you understand these concepts, please, for any task, I am quite sure that most of you people might not have heard about or basically tried to install Node.js in this room. Yes, do you all agree to that? Okay, but even this documentation or this whatever I'm running through right now doesn't expect you to know Node.js. It will expect you to understand the document what you are trying to do. You should have a patience of reading this. Okay, ఇది స్కిప్ చేసి okay, if you directly try to write Ansible scripts, you will always hit a roadblock. Let it be anything. Even if you write a shell script, you will always hit a roadblock because you don't know what you are doing. Fine, are we clear? So, and is this work whatever I've said now dependent on any technology? Right, tomorrow you are doing the work of installing Java application which requires a Tomcat on Ubuntu 14 server. What will be your query on? Install Tomcat, whatever version of Tomcat on Ubuntu. You will get the documentation something like this. You will read through the documentation. First you will execute that manually. Please do this, and this you have to follow religiously. This you have to follow religiously, because in the classroom I might take one technology and at a max two technologies, and when you go to work you might be asked to deploy a Python application. Python quality దాంట్లో చెప్పలేదుగా, that will not help. Okay, మీరు ఆ టైంలో తిట్టుకోవడానికి నేను ఉపయోగపడతానేమో కానీ, right, at that moment to scold I might be a suitable candidate, but not for your career, right? So have a habit. This is a very important stuff. If you understand this, you can work on anything, right? Are we good? So any installation, and for this you don't need to know even Linux also, because for googling you don't need Linux. And once you get into this, he's telling what are the commands which I have to execute. And how many of you don't know Linux at all? Never worked on Linux? Linux మొత్తం ఇప్పటి వరకు చూడడం వాళ్ళు ఎవరు? Okay, yeah, for the people who have not worked on Linux, let us do this stuff. Whenever you are seeing any command, for example, I scroll it down, you are seeing a command called as something like sudo apt-get update. Try to understand that command. Don't use it directly. For you will have one more step. You will have a Linux classes, I do agree to that, but what is sudo? Just Google it. It will tell sudo is nothing but run as administrator, something like, if you are used to Windows. Then apt-get update, you are updating the packages. Understand that step. Alaga, just make a small notes. Whenever I am doing sudo apt-get update, I am updating the packages on the Ubuntu machine. Then you come to the next thing, sudo apt-get install. What will this command do? This command will install something on your system. That's how I want you to learn, because there is no stuff like I know all the Linux today, so tomorrow I am starting DevOps. That is not going to happen. దానికి జీవితకాలం సరిపోదు, మనకు 60 ఏళ్ళు వచ్చినా ఆ రోజు రాదు, right? So complete Linux is not known to everyone, so forget about it. Learn while you are basically doing this task. Are we good? Yes. So why we do configuration management? We do configuration management because we want to automate deployments. And for automating deployments, there are multiple ways of doing it. Okay, one is you can write a shell script, but shell script has its own set of problems. It is not idempotent, it is not readable, it is not maintainable. So that's why we go to the world of configuration management. And in configuration management, we use something called as infrastructure as a code. And what configuration management will give you is idempotency, because when you run the script once or multiple times, you will also have the same result. And the next thing is your scripts will be readable, whether you write it or your friend writes it. Most of the script will look the same, right, for achieving the same activities. And the third And the most important one is, when you want to execute any kind of automation, you should know how to do it manually. This is a ground rule. Very much the ground rule, right? Fine. So till this moment, do we have any doubts? Let me look at the questions on the web. Yeah, I'll teach whatever is promised. But today, let us focus on configuration management. You can go through the content of the course content, and I would try. I basically deliver more than what is promised over there. So whatever is in there, I'm doing it. But not Kubernetes is not today. It will take some time because you have to complete Ansible, Chef, continuous integration, Terraform Packer, and then comes Docker. So you still have approximately 10 weeks for Kubernetes. Yeah. Okay. Is Ubuntu a repository? It is a OS. It is an OS. Fine. Any doubts till this point? Simple configuration management is looking simple. Do you know what we do in configuration management? Yes. When configuration management starts? Once you have a package. Once you have some sort of a package to deploy. All right. To do configuration management, what is that you require? You require a system with operating system. You require a system with operating system. These are the two assumptions, right? So there is one more question. Let me look at it. Jira and Jenkins. Now I get the links classes. Okay, we do everything in Python. No, don't worry about it. I'll come back to that. There is no programming language involved over here. Okay, in whatever we do in Ansible, especially, we are not using even a single line of any programming language. Right? Satisfied? Yeah. I think I've answered Raghavendra. The Ubuntu is an operating system, not a repository. Right? Okay. Okay, good. So, for anything, can we do this? Yeah. Tomorrow the technology is Go language. Let it be. Doesn't matter. As long as there is some installation instruction, we can work on it. That's the whole objective. So don't stick to one technology, right? So we can work on anything. So I'll give you some different open source application which we'll be trying to deploy. So that's how we would gain experience on this whole stuff. Okay, good. Now, so we have understood that to do this, we'll be writing some sort of IAC, infrastructure as a code, right? And now in Ansible, since we are going to learn Ansible, we will be writing IAC in something called as YAML. By the way, YAML is not a programming language. YAML is a data language. So for example, if you want to represent data, you represent the data in the format of YAML, like much like Excel sheet. So for the people who don't know much of this markup languages, Excel sheet, what we do? You want to represent the data in the tabular format. You open the Excel and you write the data, right? Similarly, YAML also has certain formats, and we'll be learning that. And remember, YAML is not a programming language, it is a representation language. You just represent the stuff in there. Okay. That's the best part of Ansible. So in Ansible, there is no programming language involved. But if you want to develop something in Ansible, I'm not telling using. You want to develop something in Ansible. For example, in Ansible, you want to write your own extensions. That's where Python will come into play. But for your and my work, we don't need any language. We just need YAML. And YAML is a very simple format which we'll be learning very soon. So don't worry about programming. Chef, okay, will use Ruby, but it has its own DSL. What do I mean by DSL? Domain specific language. We will be writing it in Ruby files. You can use Ruby, but DSL is enough. PowerShell also has its own way of representing. PowerShell has its own way of representing. So you don't need any programming language. Don't worry about programming language, right? Okay. Good. We are writing infrastructure as a code. Now, let us assume that I have written the code for this. I have written this in YAML format in Ansible. Then how do I tell those systems to run that? That is important stuff, right? We have looked into the manual way of installing. We have understood how to do it. Let us assume that we know Ansible and we have written the YAML file also, right? Then how will I tell those machines to run them? How na? I have to apply that, right? So you have written the script. The script is of no use until and unless you use it. So how do I execute my script on these systems, right? So this is where configuration management will add one more system over here, which we generally call as, for now I'm calling it as server. Okay, so your script is here. Whatever script which you have written, let us assume this is your script and this is over here. And now the machine which you want to apply is somewhere else. So how do you basically make it happen? Okay, here configuration management will have two strategies, two ways of doing it. So you have two systems. You have two systems. So what are the two different ways of communicating? ఈ రెండు systems ఉన్నాయండి. దీన్ని A అన్నాం. Let me call it this as A and this is B. So what are two possibilities of communication? A speaking to B or B speaking to A? Yes or no? Yeah. So which is your server where you have to install the softwares is speaking to your configuration management server, or your configuration management server is speaking with the servers where you have to install? Yes or no? Only two ways. So B can speak to A. This is one approach. Or A can speak to, yes or no? If your servers are speaking with the configuration management server, this model is called as pull. Are we getting the point? So for your B, which is your server where you have to install Node.js, will ask your configuration management server, is there anything which I can do periodically? Okay, every అరగంటకు ఒకసారో గంటకు ఒకసారో your B will ask to A. For every half an hour or 1 hour, it will ask to A, is there anything which I need to do? That is pull model, right? And now the other one is push. Push is your server, which is configuration management server, will go and speak with your machine where you have to install Node.js and say that you have to install Node.js now. You have some work to be done. You have to install Node.js. That's it. Two simple ways. Okay. So this is called as pull and push mode. Pull and push model. And the tool which we are learning right now, Ansible, is push. Is a push server. So what will happen? Ansible server will speak with the machines where you have to install. And if you are going with Chef, it is pull. PowerShell DSC, you can use anything which you want. You can either go with pull or push also. Anything that makes sense to you. So PowerShell DSC, I'm not worrying too much right now, but these are the two models. So for now, what is that we will be doing? We'll be doing push for these 2 weeks. Okay, server will tell, our configuration management server will tell basically your servers where the installation has to happen. Yes or no? Okay, so till here we are clear, right? Now can I elaborate on this discussion? Because whenever we want to do this, let us understand what is required. Okay, so I'm removing this. I'll redraw the stuff. I'll call this as Ansible control. So that is the actual name. Okay, Ansible control server. The configuration management server in the Ansible world is called as Ansible control server, right? And then you will have many systems, right? For example, you have to install Node.js and MongoDB. So similarly, you will have many other servers also in your office. Do you agree to that? Not only 2, right? Many. Okay. So these are generally referred to as, they are servers, but in the configuration management world, we refer to them as nodes. Simple? Yeah. Now, let us just apply very basic, common kind of stuff. So my Ansible control server wants to speak to your nodes. So what should my control server know? Ansible సర్వర్ కొన్ని సర్వర్లతో మాట్లాడాలంటే దానికి ఫస్ట్ తెలియాల్సిన ఏంటి? To speak with the servers, it should know what are the servers first of all. So here in the Ansible control server, we should have, do you agree to this list of nodes? Okay, when I say list of nodes, it could be IP addresses or host names, whatever that makes sense to you. Yes. Okay, now we have list, and now Ansible control server, while logging in, okay, while speaking with that machines, okay, basically what it tries to do is it will try to log in into node. What it is trying to do, it is trying to log in into your node. So whenever you want to log in into your machine, what is that you require? Do you agree to this? You require username and password. Yeah. And in Linux, for logging into the other Linux machine, what is that protocol which we use? That's it. This is what Ansible uses. Very simple. Ansible needs to have list of the stuffs, and then it needs to have username and password. Okay, so are we clear on this? Two important things of how Ansible works. So whenever Ansible control server speaks with the nodes, it is speaking via a protocol which is SSH in the case of Linux, and if you are using Windows, then we call it as Windows remote management, right? And remember, there is only one requirement: Ansible control server has to be a Linux machine. The only one operating system requirement is Ansible control server has to be a Linux machine. Nodes, your choice. Node can be Windows machine, node can be a Linux machine, but Ansible control server has to be a Linux machine. What are the software requirements for Ansible? Okay, what are the software requirements for Ansible? For Ansible to be working, we just need Python to be installed. Both at both the places. So your node also needs to have Python installed, and your server also needs to have Python installed. So for Ansible to be working, we just need Python. That's it. And if you know Python, Python is, if I am not wrong, 29 MB installation. 29 MB installation. So Ansible is considered to be most lightweight configuration management tool. Okay, you don't have much of requirements. You just need Python. So basically, on the control server you require Python, and also on the nodes you require Python. That's it. So what is the software requirement for Ansible? Just have simple. So whatever we write internally, Ansible converts into Python. Okay, but for that we don't need to know Python. We just need to know how to speak with Ansible, and for that we'll be learning something called as YAML. Are we good? Yes. So we need to have login into the node, and while logging into the node, it uses a SSH protocol for Linux machines or Mac machines, and basically WinRM for Windows machines. Simple. Looking good so far? Okay. Now let me look at questions if I have any. Okay. But to automate what we do in Jenkins, not Python scripting to check the builds. Why? See, Ravi, please focus on what I'm trying to tell right now. I know DevOps is a vast area, but daily, if I start speaking about other technologies within this classroom, it would be a disturbance. If you have some sort of questions about other technologies apart from what I'm discussing in the classroom, okay, please do write to me, because I don't want to disturb others' time. Right? My focus is not on Jenkins now, so I'm not speaking about Jenkins. Right? Just drop a mail to me. Right? Write a mail to qtdevops@gmail.com and I'll clarify it. And next, yeah, playbooks, I have not spoken about it yet. We are still on a baby steps. You have taken one leap forward. We'll join you there, right? Okay. Why ACS should be used only on Linux? That's because that's how Linux has been developed. Okay. The only reason is that's how Linux has been developed. That's how Ansible has been developed. We can't change it. Okay. Difference between Ansible and Chef. What is the difference? Till now, the difference which we identified is Ansible is a push model configuration management server, and Chef is a pull model. That's it. Till now we know that. And the other thing which I have pointed out is in Ansible to write configuration management, you use YAML, and in Chef you use Ruby. Only these two differences at this moment. Slowly let us gather the other stuff, right? Okay. Yeah, so ACS is only supported on Linux. Yes. What is the latest version that will be available on the market? Is there any compatibility issues with while using? No, you will not have any compatibility issues. And what is the latest version which is issued in the market? I don't know. Let us go to the Ansible site and find out. Right? Okay. Relation of infra provisioning and configuration management. So, what is the relation? Infra provisioning will give you operating system, a virtual machine, and then the configuration management will start. So, they are sequential operations whenever you want it to be. Infra provisioning low, configuration management. That's how it is. Right. Uh, one more moment. There was one other class. I didn't get today's DevOps class. Didn't know what did I miss. Probably patience. All right. No, not required. Not required. Yeah, generally, but not 2 and 3. Yeah, as long as it is 2.x everywhere, fine. Ansible control server 2 and node 3 will have some issues, and Ansible is still working on it. There are some issues, so it can be all threes. Now you can have 3.0, 3.6. That's fine. 3.x and 2.x. That is the version which you have to choose. Python has two versions, 2.x and 3.x, right? So either go for 2.x or go for 3.x. No mixture, because there are many issues observed in that area. Python 3 is still not stabilized. So all the production environments in Python are still on 2.7 itself. 3 lo ఏమవుతుందంటే 3 has some sporadic issues and Ansible is working on it. And you might end up quite recently in one of our issues, one of our student has posted me a question. That is an open issue which Ansible is working on. So 3 still has compatibility issues, and the basic stuff is working, but there are still corner scenarios. 2.7 is completely tested, no error stuff. So during our classrooms, we will be mostly focused on Python 2.7. Okay, because Ansible is a culprit, we can't correct it, right? Okay, fine. Any other queries? Yeah. So we'll be writing a YAML file, we'll be giving it to the control server, and then in the control server we have to maintain list of nodes and usernames and passwords somehow. Okay, we'll learn how to do it later point. Now generally when I say control server, what will be the assumption? The server has to be huge, right? Yeah, but Ansible control server can be even a lightweight machine. It can be your desktop Linux system also. It can be your desktop Linux system also. That's the whole point. So Ansible is a very lightweight tool. So that's why your control server will not have very vast software requirements. We'll be using a system which is 1 GB of RAM for Ansible control server, by the way. So it doesn't have too much of requirement. The only requirement which it has is Python should be installed, username and passwords known. You should know what are the machines which you want to apply. That's it. Only 3 requirements. Right? Good? Fine. Now, let me tell you advantages of Ansible. First advantage is, which most of you will like, it has, you don't need to know any programming language to work on Ansible. The next stuff is Ansible will not have any agents. Okay, when I say agent is like something which is installed on your machine which will run always. For example, the antivirus. So whenever you install antivirus, it will be running through your machine always, right? So will not have any agents installation, right? And basically clean YAML files, lightweight control server. These are advantages of Ansible or any other configuration management, right? So it will not have any programming language, it will not have any agents, you will have very clean YAML files. And by the way, these YAML files which we write in the Ansible world, they are called as YAML file. It is a YAML file, but we call it an Ansible as playbook. So in Ansible, what is that we write is we write playbooks. Okay, playbook is in the format of YAML, right? And then we'll have lightweight control server. Good. Yes. Okay. So without much ado, I'll just basically show you certain aspects of what has to be done with respect to Ansible. So generally, please make a note of this URL: github.com/a-square-zone. And I would expect everyone to create a GitHub account. Okay, it is very easy. You just go and say sign up, give a email ID. It will ask you for a username and password. Please have it. Okay. For the people who are online, I think I'll paste it to you. Guys, I'll take the questions in a moment. But let me. Okay, fine. So whatever we do in the classroom, for example, or whatever we have done earlier in the classroom is present already here. Okay. So I'll be uploading our contents, whatever I try in the classroom, over here. Right. So there is nothing like in my machine I have certain magic, nothing. You can take the scripts and run it everywhere. The only thing that is the one stuff. And now the second stuff is you might get a welcome mail where all of this is documented, but I wanted to show in the classroom because most of the people are becoming unaware of this. So for example, you want to understand, okay, any presentations which I am opening in the class, they are at this location. They are open to everyone. There is nothing hidden over here. Okay. Quality.in/blog. Scroll over here. Are you seeing DevOps material? Yes. And in here you will be seeing Ansible, Jenkins, or whatever I'm going to cover. Everything is here. Right. So this is the stuff. And apart from this, I have one book that will be given to you basically by Quality Thought. Satish will take care of that. All right. So these are the things. And now there is one more thing. So for example, the other question that is being asked to me is, I am working at home, I got a doubt, who will resolve it? Yes. So what we have done is one more site to be noted: https://github.com. Yes. Are you seeing DevOps issues? Yeah. So go to this page, issues. Okay. So if you see, it was recently started. We have 54 issues that are closed and 10 which are open. Okay. So basically, you can go and create an issue over here. Are you seeing new issue button over here? Yeah. This is especially useful for the people over the web, but don't expect the answer to be like call center. నేను ఇప్పుడు అడిగాను కాబట్టి వెంటనే ఇచ్చేస్తారు. No, it might take time, but we will definitely try to address the issue. Right? This is for the people who are not in here and who feel that here there is some persons who will help us, but if it is on the web, they will not. No, nothing like that. So the other thing which I want to do is, for example, for most of you, when you start, you might get the same issues whatever are listed over here. So when you people ask the same question, it will be easy for me or others when I say that a issue number, and you go to that issue and you'll find the resolution of it. So that's the other stuff. So any problems which you are facing while practice, please raise the issue over here. Yeah, don't worry whether it is stupid, intelligent, nothing like that. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, starting lo andaru stupid gaane untam. It takes time for us to become intelligent, right? It's okay. We are all here to learn. So don't worry about others. Just put your question over here and answers. Who will give the answers? Anyone can give the answers as long as you are aware of it, because I want all of the people's participation. If no one is responding, then I'll respond. That's how I look at it. So my response will be at the last, right? So I have seen people participating over here, which is good. And for the people who have joined new, this is how we do the things. We don't hide anything from you. So everything is over here. మీరు ఏ issues అన్నా చూసుకోవచ్చు, right? The only thing which we can't give it in the open world or PDF copies is the book, because we have some other problems around it. Yeah, fine, good, okay. For the first day we had too much of discussion. Now basically let me look at the questions, and these questions could be anything. If you have anything in mind about DevOps, you can ask me. So there is one question that is being asked saying that what is the difference between Ansible and Red Hat Ansible Tower. Okay, Red Hat Ansible Tower is powerful Ansible control server which has a wonderful UI. That's it. Ansible Tower ante Ansible control server we are using, right? That Ansible control server is powerful, and it will have a web page where you can use UI to do all this job. That's it. That's what a tower is, and it will get you some reports and all of that, right? So tower is whenever you are working on too many servers, you need some UI, you need some reports and all of that. Tower will help you in that, right? No additional functionality. Tower will not bring in at least one single feature which Ansible open source doesn't have. No, it will have a UI. That's it. Fine. Okay. Any other queries? No? Yes? Fine. Okay. One last announcement. This is not for the people who have joined very new. I am looking out for profiles who are from 2 to 10 years experienced for a job in Bangalore. Right? A company has posted to me directly. They are looking out for Jenkins. They are looking out for AWS. They are looking out for the Ansible and Terraform. Right? So actual requirement, has posted it to Satish. You will be getting a mail, and that is a decent organization, right? And yeah, but it is not nearer to Kukatpalli. I understand that, but still, career goppadu kada Kukatpalli kanna, right? So basically, for the people who have that, please uh, send your resumes to Quality Thought. Satish's mail ID. I'm quite sure everyone has his mail ID. So qualitythought.in@gmail.com, right? So they have 5 DevOps openings. Okay, and they are in touch with me because we had some discussions earlier, right? So for the people who are good with Ansible, Docker also, by the way, Docker, Ansible, Docker, Terraform, Jenkins. Okay, so they start everything from Jenkins. So please do send your profiles to qualitythought.in@gmail.com, and over the web also. I know there are people from Bangalore, right? So this company is a decent company. They have given me a wonderful package to offer. I have rejected it. That's a different story because I'm good at what I'm doing, right? So but they are very decent organization, right? Please apply to it if you are good at these skills. And for the people who have joined new, you will get these kind of things. Don't worry about it. We have a HR who is working full time, and we have better DevOps resources than any other institute. So they are coming to us, right? So don't worry about the openings. And by the way, you don't need help also. Go to the Naukri and just search for DevOps. You will understand what is happening, right? But if the companies come to us, you have a better chance of being selected, right? That's the whole point, right? And we don't even charge a single penny from organization. Our benefit is basically, they asked us, can you do consulting for us? No, we'll not do it. We want you to pick up our students. And by the way, yeah, hi Krishna, I think he's the person who is responsible for getting this done. Yeah, thanks Krishna, by the way. Yeah, so he has helped me in getting this opening. Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. So our strength is basically the students who have joined in Quality Thought, right? So basically most of the openings which we get are referrals. And I'll do one thing. I'll ask Satish to, man. I'll generally type the misspellings, and I'll ask Satish to basically type the mail IDs, and I'll ask him to send all a mail forward to all of you, right? So once a mail will be Seshi, a mail will be received to all of you. Okay. Yeah. And some more openings are coming also. Yeah. Thanks for that, Krishna. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I had for the day. Yeah. So any other things? Okay then. So tomorrow also we'll have the class at the same time, right? 7 to 7:15 to 8:30 would be approximately. Initially, I don't want to take the full stretch classes. Let us learn certain things, but let us learn it correctly. Okay. And during the next week, I have couple of days where my classes might stop at 8:15. One is Monday, and the other one is Thursday, because in office I have to give Git training. And you know Hyderabad traffic, right? I have to go to the Gachibowli, and yeah, if I'm stuck somewhere in between, yeah. So during next week on Monday and Thursday, my classes I'll stop at 8:15, right? And cloud classes I'll stop at 9:30, only for 2 days. So this will happen 4 times in your journey because I have to give 4 different trainings for 4 different set of audience, right? Okay. Do we have next AWS session? Yes, we do have. So we'll start that AWS session at 8:40, right? Good. That's it. We can make a move. And thanks for your time. And please remember the concept which I have discussed. Just don't try to make a complete notes of it. Whatever I'm writing over here, right? I'll ask people to share it, and I'll share it in GitHub. Then during this weekend, I'll put all of this in GitHub, right? So you can. There is no need for you to write. But write. That doesn't mean that you don't write anything. Write what is important, what you feel like important. So for example, today I've told terminologies like idempotence. I've said something like pull and push server. Just make a note of them so that those will be a brief points which will describe what has to be done. Right? Okay. నిన్న నేను చెప్పలేదు, ఇవాళ చెప్తున్నాను. కొత్తగా వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు ఇంకా ఉన్నారు కాబట్టి there are new people, so that's why I'm reiterating this class. If you don't have time to work, if you don't have time to practice, don't join DevOps or AWS. Okay, if you don't have time to, because these are the kinds of courses which will look very simple when you are looking at it. Okay, and you will forget if you don't do it. Okay, so this is a hands-on stuff. If you don't have at least 10 hours of a time per week to work on these courses, don't join. It doesn't make sense, right? The only exception for that is manager, because managers, they want to understand it. For understanding it is good, but my course is more towards doing the stuff hands-on. So if you don't have 2 hours of time per day, don't join the course. Fine, thanks.